a very special day.
It's a very special day.
So the guy who has the channel I'm always telling y'all about, I want to try not to act like a weirdo. Seriously, we go way back, but it's different. He has his own YouTube gardening channel, and I'm just getting started.
Hello. How are you?
Oh my gosh! Hey,
How are you?
doing just fine. Yay, Willie! Well, let's go on over here and have a sit, and then we'll talk about some stuff, and then I'll give you a tour. I got you some mint orange drake here, a little bit of sourdough bread if you want some. I know you came a long way. Here he is, Andy K with Get Your Wellies. I shared just the other day the 3 profiles that I really follow that have really helped me in this journey, and his was number 1 on there. Today he's come to tour my garden because he's been in on it since the very beginning. I wanted to go through some things some changes, some successes, some failures, and just see what kind of tips that he had. So I'm really excited about that. Go ahead and tell him about himself.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. So my name's Andy K. My channel is Get Your Wellies. Get Your Wellies has been around for just a little while, since about 2021. I've been gardening longer than that. But the channel is really aimed at the new gardener, and especially people who want to garden in really small spaces. So a small garden, a patio, even if all you have is a balcony, you can grow things. There's ways to do that. So I'm really, as much as I love looking at big gardens, my heart is really for the small backyard gardener. And so that's what I aim at on my channel.
How long have you been in gardening?
I have done something in gardening on and off for probably 15 to 20 years. However, in the last several years, it's become quite a passion. So I would say I've been gardening really hard for probably 5 years.
Where do you contribute what you've learned from? Is it just from the doing, or did you have certain profiles or something? Where did you go to for your information?
So I knew a fair amount, but of course you can always learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And so YouTube was a really good platform for me to watch, but the diversity in gardening is incredible. The advice you get varies significantly. So there is something of I've got to watch people that I trust to be telling me the right things. But I remember distinctly the very first time I did a YouTube search for a gardening topic, I literally typed in how to grow tomatoes in Arkansas. And the first profile that came up was Roots and Refuge, which is a huge gardening channel, very, very popular. They are, yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. So they had about a 4-acre farm, but I learned a lot from Roots and Refuge.
And they're homesteaders, right?
They are now.
Okay.
They were very, and I suppose they were when I first tuned into it. But they were very small scale.
Your interest does not lie in homesteading, right? Your interest lies in the small, small garden.
I mean, the situation I'm in right now is a small backyard garden.
Right.
So I don't know that. I don't know that homesteading's really on the menu for me necessarily. I'm interested in kind of thing. Growing gardens is. For some people, that is the beginning of a homesteading journey, and it usually is what is the beginning of it. But for some people, that's all it will ever be. They want to grow, and they want to grow successfully.
Right.
And, when COVID hit, lots of people started gardening to the extent that gardening supplies were in short supply.
Really?
For a while. All kinds of things were short supply and not available.
I really do understand the difficulty with being able to get your hands on food. And crazy enough, I had just started harvesting my cucumbers, and all of a sudden here in Arkansas, there's a recall on cucumbers.
Oh yeah, something about you.
Right. So I actually had my aunt, a friend, and my sister-in-law were like, hey, we can't get cucumbers. You got cucumbers? And it really makes me feel good. It was an unexpected benefit to my mental health, but also just to the feeling of I can grow things and I can take care of people with it. And it's very nurturing to my soul for sure. So you guys, Andy K, it was his channel that actually got me started figuring out how to make my container garden. And now I've got, instead of just 2 little veggies that I wanted to, I think that I've had 11 different vegetables, about 12 different herbs. I don't know, 4 something, I don't know, different flowers. There's a lot of stuff growing back there. Has not been all successful, but the things that I have succeeded at, it's a feeling like I haven't had that. It's amazing. But I had very low expectations to begin with. When I started digging in the dirt, I thought, I don't know what I think I am. I know nothing about this other than what I did next to my grandparents when I was little, you know. But now I've done some gardening with my own grandchildren, and I really see it as a generational thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that we're getting back to that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him a tour, and then we're going to discuss some things, maybe head off some big mistakes that I'm making, and just pick his brain on ideas for the future. So we'll be back here in just a little bit. So this is my sweet potato area. These are Japanese purple sweet potatoes that Andy grew the slicks, and he gave me like 8. So I was able to, I really believe that if you're gifted, you need to pass it on when it's finished. Sure. So I gifted 2 to 2 different friends. So I think they're doing great. I mean, truthfully, you can't tell what's going on underneath.
No.
Hoping they're okay.
But whenever you've got healthy vines like that,
It's a good sign.
you would be very optimistic that
Okay.
it would look good.
Okay.
But it's still a little early to go scratching to see.
Right. You said around October.
Yeah, October, November.
Okay. So in this bed, I also have just some marigolds, and because it said it was a good companion plant, that's some lemon balm underneath there. It's supposed to help with pests. And I thought it earlier, want to kind of help keep that area nice and moist down deeper because they want to grow deeper, right? You know, look at those, pitiful. So this is my cucumbers. Now, these are about done. They were getting sunburned before I even put up the shade cloth, but they're really just about run out, except for the ends. This end and that end. They're having new growth. I'm not extremely happy with it. Truthfully, it may be my fault. When you plant seeds, the back of the package says to thin it. So you take perfectly good plants and throw them out, and I couldn't. So you see what happened here.
I mean, I'm just going to say it gets easy. Being brutal just gets a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think how I'm going to proceed next year, well, like I've already done over here, I just planted 4. You know? I just want to plant 20 seeds. And that's what I did, is I planted 20 seeds, and my goodness, they just about all grew.
So when a little tip here for your viewers who have packages of seeds that might be 3 or 4 years old, on those, go by all means plant 20. Not as many will come up because of the germination rate goes down over time. So that way, if you plant 20, you might get, this year you probably got 20. Next year with the same seed packet, you might only get 12.
Right.
And so it's okay. You just have to learn to pluck them out a little.
So I've got marigolds in every single bed. I love the flowers, but also it does bring all the pollinators. But I will also tell you, I've had very little pest problems. Very little.
That's good.
So these pepper plants, those 3, this is where they have been since this was built, end of March. And they have just now started.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
They really like the heat. You'll start getting more and more flowers. They'll start producing. So it's not unusual for your peppers to be producing really well, even still into October, November.
Oh, good.
All the way to the first one.
Now, is this shade cloth okay for them?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It is.
Up there, where those pepper plants are, eggplant did terrible there. It did not great here, but when I put up the shade cloth, this is all happened in like 2 weeks. It just started to. And you see the irrigation that I put in. I've spent a lot of time trying to get that adjusted, and it is not perfect yet. Well, I hand watered this morning, right? Yeah. And this area is compact because I've been standing in it.
Yeah.
This is where I had my lettuce. And now, so I took out the lettuce, I've got catnip, catnip, oregano, basil, and then the main thing that's in this bed clearly is the tomatoes, right? Okay, so what I want to tell you is...
And what kind of these?
These are cherries, and they are probably freezing because I got crazy with the pruning over the last 3 days. This half I just let go. And tomatoes are worse than Christmas lights in a box when you start trying to untangle those things.
Oh, yeah.
And when I could not reach through to grab the tomatoes, or if I saw a diseased leaf, branch, whatever, and I wanted to cut it, well, you see my bleach thing over there? So I keep that, and I have several different shears because I don't want to cut one plant with the same shears on another if they're sick, right? It was a lot of hassle. So I just got nuts, trellis everything up, whether it's to the fence that I pulled off our property. I kind of wanted to keep some expenses down this year because I wasn't certain how into it I was going to be. So I didn't want to get the cattle panels and stuff like that. We already had this, so I used it. And this actually looks so much better. But what's crazy, this is Tomato Alley. Come over here, see I have not gotten to pruning these yet. Like, that's one plant. It just has 4 shoots from it, right? It's absolutely nuts. And I started trellising it. Now, there's an okra. Told you I was doing some experimentation. Green beans have not worked out for me. I have not been able to grow them anywhere. I'm hoping they're going to work out over there. Now, along the back of the tomatoes, you see I've got basil. Got basil planted with basically every tomato. And then marigolds planted as well. These zinnias were 3 little plants. And they're just continuing to put out. And just beautiful.
Yeah.
I will have zinnias and marigolds everywhere. Every time. Got an okra over here, just okra over here on this end. I've got green beans in the back. So I moved my peppers over here. They were over there by the Tomato Alley. Moved them over here because this just seemed empty. They're doing very well there. Yeah. We have finished our tour. I've walked him through my huge, massive garden. It is so much more massive than what it was planned to be in the beginning, right? Truthfully, I know that I definitely have some overcrowding problems, and that's probably why my cucumbers did not produce as much. I probably had in one 3x8 bed 16 cucumber plants. I'm not real good at following the instructions. But then there was all these people on social media saying, ignore the spacing rules. That's like, don't ignore the spacing rules unless you have the ability to put those nutrients back in there that they need, because it's really depleting the soil so quickly. So that was just one of the problems that I identified. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and be brutal.
So good is you have here a nice mix in terms of timing. So your cucumbers, these are common mistakes to overcrowd. And what happens, because I didn't see, literally what happens is next year, instead of having 16 plants in there, you'll probably talk yourself down to 10 or 12, which will probably still be too much.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you end up with extra plants, right? And you just, like, it's so hard to throw them away if you can't find another home for them.
Right.
And this is very common. I have lots of friends who are fairly new in gardening, and they do tend to overdo it. And to be honest, I sometimes look at my beds and go, I probably shouldn't have done that. Well, so you just have to learn to back off a little bit. But so that's a mistake. But it's honestly, it's everybody does that. The part what's really good is you have plants that look super healthy over here, and they're going to start producing. Probably within the next 2 weeks, you're going to start getting some things off of those plants.
Okay. Would you be surprised if those plants produced better and more cucumbers than these sit over here?
No, I expect that they probably will.
Awesome.
And that's good for you because A, you get more cucumbers.
Right.
But B, it encourages you that that's the way you need to grow for next year.
Right.
Which is always good to know. I mean, I always like if I put something in, it's like, wow, that just did so much better than the way I did it last year.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's the good thing here is you've got several things that you've got it staged. You've got round one coming sort of towards an end. Cucumbers for sure. Tomatoes, some of those may spend out here in the next few weeks, though you've got other ones coming up late and handy.
Right.
So that's good. Another good thing, a lot of flowers in here. There's the one that I particularly like to see. Marigolds are really nice. They look attractive. They probably do help with some pests fairly well, but basil is a wonderful thing to have lots of, and you have lots of that. So if you let it go to seed, which is really easy to do, you just don't look at it for a couple of days. But it'll drop seed, and next year you will have volunteers of basil just everywhere.
Really?
And basil is, you know, there are people who will say that if you've got a garden full of basil, you'll never see a hornworm. I don't know that, I wouldn't give it quite 100% on that, but it's pretty close.
Okay.
So anytime you have see hornworms, just sort of take note, do I actually have basil somewhere close to this plant? And if the answer's no, then you're probably being something. If you let these go to seed, and I would, because they'll still work to protect against hornworms, but they also bring in a ton of pollinators because they have those upright flowers that the pollinators just love. And you can tell, you get any kind of movement on these things and the smell just it's in the air.
The basil and, well, actually all the herbs, I've just really become familiar with so many more of the smells. Yeah. You really cannot compare to smelling them in the grocery store, even the ones that are supposed to be fresh, to when they're grown in the garden. It like this mint, which, by the way, tastes great in orange
Gardens just smell like summertime.
Just absolutely love it.
Now, the irrigation is good. I liked your irrigation system. I would go with some non-mulch to make that irrigation system work better. Was this aspen shade?
Yes.
So that's what I like to use too. I have mine minimally 2 inches deep, and some of it's 4 or even 5 inches deep.
I just actually got some more in.
Yeah.
So I will happily come out here and put more down, because if it can, anything to help with the water evaporation. Yeah. Right? Because one thing I have learned is the tomatoes, the peppers, the cucumbers all want their water.
I also use mostly just regular cheap soda hoses.
Okay.
And I'm using it as a means to supplement what I do. Obviously, if you get rain, you don't really need to worry about it. You can go hit the dial to pause it for a couple of days. But if you've got good mulch on there and you let it soak for, you know, if it's cucumbers, a lot of time, if it's things that don't need quite as much water, you do 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes every other day. As long as that soil is moist and you just literally stick your finger in there to man.
Okay.
That's how you know. If you water in the morning, you stick your finger in there at the end of the day. If it's dry, you need a little more water. You might need 15 minutes, not 10. If it's sopping wet, you can probably back it up.
Okay.
So it still comes down to, it's not an exact science. There's some variables. So I'm a huge proponent of mulch, whatever kind you like.
Go to Andy's channel, check out his favorite mulch video. It's aspen, and what is so fantastic about it, inexpensive, and it's clean.
Yeah. But the other thing is that when it decomposes, in the wintertime it will decompose fairly quickly because it's going to be wetter. It decomposes to a neutral pH.
So you can just
so you don't need to you don't need to worry about them. They're going to make a soil acidic using this, because you're not.
I really appreciate you coming today.
Yes.
Got you a little pig.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, sir. I baked that this morning.
Okay, this is some of your sourdough.
Yes, sir. It is. Yeah, fresh smoked this morning. You're going to need a nice serrated knife.
Yeah.
Cut that thing.
We do compliments.
And those are bread and butter pickles.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
They are good. My mother said
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I understand it's a thing in the gardening community.
Yeah.
Whenever people come over, they're always like, so what are you sending me home with? That's what's supposed to be, right? Well, I really appreciate you coming here. This is really an honor to have you here and to be able to see it and share it.
Thank you for having me, and you've been very kind.
Thank you so much. So what you're going to see very soon, I'm going to his gardens tomorrow. I'm so excited to look at what you have planted, where, and what is the funniest thing? He would be like, so what kind of tomato is this? I'm like, it's a cherry tomato. He goes, I was like, no, it's just a cherry. I don't know anything else. Apparently, there are multiple different names. And the cucumber, he's like, what kind of cucumber? Those are burpless. I don't know anything else other than that. I just went on Walmart and ordered cucumbers, tomatoes. Yeah, that looks good. Remember, you guys have watched part 1 here. Part 2 is going to be on Get Your Wellies. So be sure and watch out for that. Give Andy a sub and enjoy the content. I sure have. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.